Hello, welcome to today's live stream. I am going to be showing you how to make these zipper bags that are perfect for shopping from bulk bins. Um, when you shop in bulk, you might get small things like rice or lentils or even flour, and you'll probably find that with a drawstring bag like this guy, no matter how tight you close it, there's going to be a little bit of space for small things to escape. So I have designed a super simple zipper bag. It's not lined, it sews up very fast, and it'll help you keep your bulk goods from spilling out. But you could obviously use this bag for whatever you want. You could shop produce with it. You could use it around the house or as a project bag. And it has a ton of uses, but like I said, I designed this specifically for bulk shopping. So let me walk you through the project. I am going to show you the supplies that I'm working with. And if you have any questions during this live stream, please drop them in the comments. There is a little bit of a delay, but I will see any questions eventually. So let me show you the materials that I am using for this project. I basically have 2 rectangles of a lightweight cotton fabric, and I cut this piece of fabric down to 14 inches tall, and then I cut it into rectangles that are 10 inches wide. Now you could definitely modify these measurements for whatever fabric you have available, but my idea was to try to get 2 bags out of 1 strip of fabric. So you could cut 1 strip of fabric to the height that you want, and then just cut that into 4 equal rectangles, and that'll get you 2 bags. So I've got these 2 rectangles, 14 inches tall, 10 inches wide. You can definitely modify this to any fabric size that you want. And let me walk you through the steps. Oh, so 10 inches wide, that's how wide the fabric is, and that will work well with a 9-inch zipper. So a 9-inch zipper is 9 inches of actual zipper teeth, but the full length of this zipper is about 10.5 inches. So when you're picking your zipper size, you want to cut your fabric a little bit wider than the official zipper size, okay? So this is a 9-inch zipper. You can cut a zipper down to size if you have a much larger zipper, but you'll notice that the fabric is longer, or wider rather, than the actual metal zipper part. And so you want to make sure that if you adjust these measurements, that you take into account that you need room to sew along the sides of your zipper. And I always like to use metal zippers because they are recyclable. They're not made of plastic. This is cotton fabric with a metal zipper, so it's a more sustainable choice for the long run. But use what you have on hand. That's the most sustainable choice, is to use up the materials that you already have before you go out and buy new materials. All right, so we have our zipper, we have our fabric, and the very first step is to attach the fabric to the zipper on both sides. So the way we're going to do this is place our fabric with the right side of the fabric onto the right side where the pull is, the right side of the zipper. So we're going to place these face to face, right sides together, and I'm just going to pin the fabric onto the zipper in a few different spots. You could also clip, but I'm doing this a little bit more streamlined. So I'm pinning, flipping it over, and now I'm going to So you see that one side of the fabric is attached to one side of the zipper. Now I'm going to grab my second piece of fabric and I'm going to place it right side on top of the other side of the zipper tape. This is the tape, the sort of fabric-y part. I'm going to line it up with the edge of the zipper. And again, I'm going to pin it in place with 3 pins, just like so. And then I'm going to take you over to the sewing machine and you can see the next steps. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Okay, so over here at my machine, I have a nice close-up view. I'm going to actually swap out my zipper, my standard presser foot for a zipper foot, which is more narrow. Just get that in place and just click it in there. And now I'm just going to work starting with one side of the zipper. And I'm going to take my pin out. And I'm going to sew pretty close to the edge. So this is about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I have the edge of the zipper foot lined up with the edge of my zipper tape and fabric. I'm going to go forward a little bit and then I'm going to hit my reverse button and do a little back stitch. And just go straight down. And I'm getting near a pin, so I'm going to take that pin out. And keep going. And a little further. Okay, now I'm getting near my last pin and I'm also getting near the zipper pull. So I've got my needle in the down position. I'm going to lift the presser foot and I'm going to peek in between the layers and push the pull. That sounds kind of funny. I'm pushing the pull back and out of the way. That way it's not going to mess up my seam. Okay, now just keep going to the end. And I'll do a little back stitch. Okay, so we've got our first seam done. I don't know how well you can see that, but we're going to switch over to the other side of the zipper and do the same thing. So I'm taking out that pin, making sure these edges are together, and I'm going to go forward a few and reverse stitch a few, and then all the way down. Again, as I get near a pin, I'm going to take that out, and I'm getting near my zipper pull, so I'm going to again go between the layers. Needle is down, lift that presser foot, and then just pull the pull to the back. And then just keep going. And take out my last pin. Oops. Make sure my edges are still lined up. And back stitch. Okay, so there's my second row of stitches. Looking good. All right, so we want to do a little ironing next. And let me get my iron on. So we sewed those. Now we want to just do a simple ironing here to get this fabric to lay nice and flat away from the zipper. And then we're going to do a second row of stitches. And I just want to make sure there's no questions in the chat. Looks good. Okay, so my iron is warm. I'm just doing a super simple ironing. Now this is an unlined zipper bag, which is better for food. You've got less material that needs to get washed and dried, so this will dry really fast. If you were making a bag for travel or something that you wanted to line it, you could watch one of my other videos, which I will link to in this video. Okay, so let's go ahead and top stitch right next to the zipper, so that our fabric stays in place. we don't really need to do a back stitch here. I'm sewing real close to the edge of the fabric. And just keep going. Okay, I'm going to push my zipper head out of the way. Get this last section. And cut my threads. And then I'm going to come over and repeat that on the other side of the zipper. And we're doing this because we want to enclose the raw edges of the fabric so that we don't get a bunch of fraying inside our bag. So I'll show you the underside in just a minute. Okay. All right, so we've got our top stitching complete. And now if you look at the underside of the bag, you'll see that the fabric is sewn in place so that you're not going to have very much fraying over time of your fabric. You could also do a zigzag stitch, but I find that this is sufficient. So let me show you the next step here. Once we have our fabric top stitched around the zipper, we want to open the zipper up a little bit, maybe halfway or so. And then we're going to be pinning around the sides of the bag. And we want to pin the zipper tape so that it is pointed away from the fabric. It's pointed up and away from the fabric. Can you see that? And the fabric is going in the opposite direction. So I'm just going to put a pin right there. And I'm going to come to this side. I'm going to make sure the zipper is doing the same thing over here. Okay. So the zipper tape is pointed this way and the fabric is pointed the opposite way. That way, when we turn our bag right side out, the zipper tape will be going down into the bag, not poking up out of the bag. Okay. So I've got a couple pins there. Now I'm just going to put a couple more pins on this bag. It's not a ton of material, so I don't need a ton of pins, but you use as many pins as you want so that you feel comfortable. Okay. And we're going to go back to our machine, and we don't need the zipper foot anymore, so I'm just going to pop that off and get my presser foot back on, my standard presser foot back on. Sorry, didn't mean to bump that. And now I'm going to sew all the way around with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, somewhere between a 1/2 inch and 3/8 seam allowance. Take out my pin and definitely do a back stitch here. And then just keep going around. Get my little pin cushion over here. Oh, you know what I forgot to do was to put a little tag in here, which I have on my table somewhere. It's hiding. So normally I like to add a little no trace tag to all the bags I make. I'm going to go ahead and slip this in on this side of the bag. Normally I would put it on the other side, but I am just going to pop that in between the layers, just like that, and pin it in place. All right. That way, if I give this to someone as a gift, they'll know that I made it. All right, when I get about a 1/2 inch away from the edge, I'm going to lift the presser foot and pivot the fabric and just keep going. And keep going. Again, I'm about a 1/2 inch away from that end, so I'm lifting the presser foot, I'm pivoting the fabric. And taking out that pin. You could also put a loop, a little loop of ribbon or cord in between the layers if you wanted. I'm just putting my tag in there. Take out one last pin. And I'm going to make sure the back stitch. All right, so now our bag has its main seam. This is like the major seam that's going to keep the fabric together, but we don't want this fabric to fray over time. So I'm going to do one more seam all the way around the edge with a zigzag stitch, and I'm going to show you how to do that. I just want to pop over and see if anyone has any questions. Okay, I'm going to put my machine on a zigzag stitch. Now I don't think I can quite show you. Yeah, you can't quite see, but I'm on a zigzag stitch. I'm making it extra wide. And I'm just going to get my bag under the presser foot. And I want let's see if I can get in a little closer here. I want the needle to go right off the edge of the fabric on one side. And I'm going to do a little back stitch here. And just keep going straight down. Okay. Now it'll be easier for you to see the needle's going right off the edge of the fabric and then back on. So it's going off, on, all the way down. Now if you had a serger, you could definitely finish these seams with the serger. I do have a serger, but I think most people don't have a serger, so I like to show you how to do it with just your standard machine. Sometimes that corner gets chewed up a little bit, but just keep going. Eventually it'll find its way out. And I'm going to pivot again and keep going. Now, if you find that your fabric isn't lined up nicely, you can always trim it before you do this. So I didn't need to this time, but sometimes I trim it a little bit. And when I'm sewing, I'm watching the edge of the fabric and I'm lining it up with a spot on my presser foot. I'm not watching the needle so much, although I do check the needle sometimes. Okay, and a back stitch, and cut my threads. All right. This bag is almost done. It sews up so fast. You could probably make about 40 of these in a day. I don't know exactly how many I can make in a day, but you can make a lot. Okay, so we got that done. The last thing to do is check for loose threads and go ahead and trim all of those. I like to use smaller scissors for this process. And take my time. I use an organic cotton thread, and that you can add to your compost, or you can save your little thread bits and use them as stuffing for little toys and pillows and things. Okay, so we trimmed the loose threads. Oh, here's another one. And I'll just get this guy. This fabric, by the way, was designed by an artist named Catherine Beals, and I make some products for her. So if you want napkins or something in this fabric, check her out. I'll put her website in the description box below this video. Okay, I'm turning it right side out. I'm just pushing out those corners, and then we can see how we did. Looks pretty good. Make sure that zipper closes and opens. You could trim off some of that zipper before you did the zigzag stitch if you wanted. I think it's fine, but I'm just noticing there's a little bit of a chunk there, but that's okay. I want to show you one more option for these bags. Now, I have another one that I finished over here, and I have attached a jump ring with a metal tag. And when I shop in the bulk bins, there's a number on the bulk bins. Like, let's say I'm getting pinto beans. There's a number that's connected to pinto beans, and I will write that number on this metal tag using a Sharpie or a wax pencil. And the Sharpie comes off with just a little bit of rubbing alcohol, and the wax pencil you can just wipe off. So I write that number down, and then when the cashier is checking me out, the cashier can just take a look at that number and they will know what's inside this bag. And I don't have to be there with my list telling them every single thing that's in every single bag. So I sell these in my shop. They're very affordable, but you could absolutely just make one of these on your own. You can absolutely just make one of these on your own with like string and paper. You would just want to take it off before you toss your bags in the laundry. So I'll put the link to get some of these tags in the description box below this video. I'll put the link to Catherine Beal's website also in the description box below this video. And right here, I'm going to link to another tutorial that shows you how to make drawstring bags, which are the other great option for when you're shopping from bulk bins. These little guys are our go-to items. We use them for bulk shopping, and also all of our fruits and vegetables we put into a drawstring bag instead of a plastic bag. So I'll link to that right here. Thanks so much for watching.